Hola amigos! Welcome to Singing Señorita. So this week, I wanted to share how I have taught pronouns and ser, because this year I've had more success than I have had in any other year that I have taught this. So what I started out with and what I changed this year is that I actually made a PowerPoint over pronouns. And before I thought this is just too simple to make a whole PowerPoint on. I just need to tell them what they are and then we'll do different activities. But what I did over the summer is I made a PowerPoint, and I'll show you an example up there of one of the slides, but I walked very deliberately, very slowly through the concept of pronouns, made sure they understood it in English before we moved on to Spanish, because sometimes they just don't know what a pronoun is. So we walked through what it is, how we use it in English, and then we jumped into the pronouns in Spanish. And what's different is I made notes pages where they filled in different pieces of information that would be important for them to understand in pronouns. And we walked through it, and after each section, they did some practice activities. And I think that has made a world of difference. Their first worksheet, I could tell even after teaching it before we did any worksheets, that they understood it more than any other year. And this is the only year I've had them take notes like that. Before, I would be extremely creative. We would do all these different things, but the PowerPoint has been the most successful. It is the most boring. I would think one of my fun activities that we used to do would be more effective, but this has been the most effective. And then I just had them do a Google Forms worksheet. And then because they were so solid on their pronouns, I was able to enter into the verb ser and do the same thing. So this is also the first year that I have made a PowerPoint on the verb ser. So I had them just follow along with the notes, but I took it very, very slowly. The PowerPoint has built-in review of pronouns. So they got it twice. We went back through it. We did different examples. They filled in, what pronoun would replace each subject as they were going through, because the notes are designed to have practice after each section. Then what I had in the PowerPoint is they just simply had to match the form of ser with the pronoun. I didn't get complicated right away. Can we just figure out how to use the chart? And then we went through a review of the pronouns again with the different examples. Okay, what pronouns go with these different subjects? And then I had a section where they had to figure out what is the form of ser with those different subjects, not with the subject pronouns. So it might be Carlos, it might be Pedro y Paco. Then I had them describe themselves. So this took us a few days. Describe themselves. They had an activity where they had to ask each other como eres and answer in a complete sentence. They talked about it in groups, and then the students had to guess what those adjectives were. And then we went through what each one of we turned that chart into questions, like eres tú, es él, and they would have to figure out what all the different combinations meant, so they have a very solid understanding. And then what I did after we were finished with the notes, I gave them a fun page to do, because I want verb conjugation not to be like something dreary, oh, it's boring grammar. So I had one of my color by conjugation sheets where they had the different forms of ser, which connect to the different pronouns and what color they should color things. And it was perfect because we're approaching fall. So that was their fun activity that they got to do. And then what I did the next day is they had to do a side-by-side page. So I had a person A and a person B. And the way that I set those up is that person A has to talk about what they think the answer would be. So I would have a sentence, Carlos blank atrevido. And then what person A would do, they wouldn't just write it down and pass it to their partner. Person A would talk person B through what they think the answer is. Well, Carlos would be él, and on the chart, él goes with es. So I think the answer is Carlos es atrevido. Person B, before person A could write anything down, person B had to approve. So they could say, estoy de acuerdo. They could say, perfecto, fantástico, buen trabajo, whatever affirmation they wanted to use in Spanish. And if person B agreed, then person A would write down the answer. But then I also had them write the English, because I want them to understand what it is that they are doing. Why? Okay, I don't want them to just conjugate and not know what it means. So I had them write, oh, Carlos is daring. And then I had them go through the process of agreeing. And then I passed the paper to person B. Person B does the exact same thing. Okay, it says Pedro y Paco. Okay, that's two boys. So I think that would be ellos. And on the chart, ellos goes with son. All right, so I think the answer is Pedro y Paco son cómicos. And person A would say fantástico. Person B would write the son and then say, okay, I think this means Pedro and Paco are funny. And person A would say, sí, fantástico, and write it down. And they go back and forth until they finish the worksheet. What I love about this pair way of doing it is they get instant feedback. There's only one of me with 30 students, but when they pair off and they help each other and they have to get the agreement of their partner, they will work out those details in their mind, and it makes it so much more solid when they do it that way. Then after that, for even more practice, I have a Google Forms worksheet over Ser, and then that's where they get to do their independent. So I like to put them together first, especially this is their first verb for me that they are learning to conjugate. And I always like to start with Ser because we're learning adjectives. So why not be able to talk about yourself and others? So their first independent practice is with a Google Forms worksheet. So the reason why I love doing this as their first independent practice is because I allow my students to have multiple attempts, and I don't have to grade their multiple attempts because the Google Forms grades it for them. So they can take it as many times as they want, long as they have it done by 7 a.m. the next morning when I put the grades in. And they appreciate it, and many of them will do it 4 or 5 times until they get it right. But it makes them understand. They get all of that extra practice because they basically have to redo the whole worksheet with every attempt. So it gets down into them so silently. Then what I'm going to do is play a few more games. We might play Conjugamos, and we might do a whiteboard activity. And then I have little mini quizzes, 10 questions. So they're going to take a quiz over just ser. That is all they have to know. Soy, eres, es, somos, son. And we are done. And then, of course, there will be a few that I have to do a reteach and a retake on that quiz because I do, especially on the first grammar quiz, allow retake. But I foresee that there will be fewer this time than ever before because just the process of walking through that I've seen already, they have it more solidly than in any other year. So just because I saw the results, I wanted to share what I did this year that was different with you. I hope that you can use some of these ideas. I will put all of the links in the description for you, and I hope you have an awesome week. Adios.